Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Martin Amidu, and this is the Ghana Agenda, episode 102. So on the Ghana Agenda, we've been talking about Agyapa Royalties Limited. We started last week, so if you haven't watched the last show, which is episode 101, please go back and watch it and then come to this one. So again, today we'll be talking about the corruption risk assessment that was performed by the OSP. We are going to go a little deeper. So tell a friend to tell a friend. Martin Amidu is on Ghana Agenda. This is your favorite politician's favorite show. We'll be right back. So today we're going to start with how this whole deal started. So somewhere in 2011, the government of Ghana, through the Ministry of Finance, contemplated monetizing our gold resources. The then Attorney General was part of that conversation, and that same person by name Martin Amidu is currently our own Special Prosecutor. Martin Amidu was part of that negotiation. He released an opinion to the government that was actually assessed, and that deal was put to the shelf. In fact, what came out of that discussion or those negotiations then were that, and for us to actually monetize our mineral, we need all those stakeholders involved, the chiefs involved, the leaders of those communities, the mining communities all involved. So to do so, we decided that instead of just going straight to monetize our mineral resources, why don't we form a fund called a Mineral Development Fund to provide for those communities where we actually drill or we actually extract these resources. So we did that. That was back in 2011. The law was passed in 2016. Fast forward, in 2017, the Akufo-Addo administration was ushered into office, and then a couple of companies came to the government with unsolicited proposals that they could give debt instruments to the government so that the government can now monetize those mineral resources. Now, companies that approached the government were Nevada, Petrodel, Triple Flag, and Stanbic. Now, these companies came with proposals to help the government monetize the gold resources that we have, or gold royalties resources. Now, the government then thought they all make sense. Those proposals all make sense, but that they need a transaction advisor to help them actually put a better structure for this monetization to actually take off. So they went to the PPA, which is the right thing to do, to obtain authorization for the government to employ a transaction advisor. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it gets murkier. 8 companies were approved on the list of companies that the government was gonna, go through a restricted tendering to actually award this contract. Then, after the approval by the PPA, the Minister of Finance included a clause that the company that comes with a Ghanaian partner will be treated favorably. Remember, this was not part of the approval that the PPA actually provided prior to the RFPs going out. The RFPs being the request for proposals. So before the request for proposals went out, the Minister of Finance inserted a clause that says that a Ghanaian partner was needed. So 2 companies actually proposed. Morgan Franklin went in with Boulder, which is a Ghanaian company. If you all recall, Boulder is the company that the Ministry of Finance used for the banking cleanup. When they were liquidating these banks that are not performing, we used Boulder to do so. Another company that also proposed was Imara. Remember Imara Corporate Finance from South Africa? Imara also proposed. But interestingly, Imara proposed with DataBank. If you recall DataBank was a company that was formed by the Minister of Finance, the current Minister of Finance, who is also in charge of this same deal we are doing. So for whatever strange reason, DataBank is now partnered with Imara to propose on this deal. Eventually, the deal was won by Imara and DataBank as a Ghanaian sub. Now, there's something interesting here too that we should also pay attention to. The agreement, which you call the mandate agreement between Imara and the Ghanaian government, was signed off of by the Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Edu Boahen. Honorable Edu Boahen, if you actually are familiar with the provisions of our Public Finance Management Act, the act provided that only the principal spender in the Ministry of Finance is the only person that can actually commit the government. So the mandate agreement between the Republic of Ghana and Imara Corporate Finance was signed by the Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Edu Boahene. Dr. Edu Boahene is now the principal spender of the Ministry of Finance. Note that only the principal spender of the Ministry of Finance, who is the chief director, can actually obligate the government or can commit the government on contracts. But Mr. Oduboye, Dr. Oduboye did this in violation of the law. And this is one of the big things. So essentially what is happening here is the Ministry of Finance is self-dealing. In other words, the Ministry of Finance went and took a company unknown to nobody. This is a company from South Africa, a company that is not even trusted in South Africa to do this by themselves. But here we are getting a South African company partnering that company with a company that is owned by the Minister of Finance to advise the Finance Ministry on how we monetize our gold resources. What this means is that the Ministry of Finance is advising itself. It's not Imara who's advising, but we will go into details and you get to see exactly why we think this is self-dealing. And none of what I'm saying today are my words. These are all in the 67-page report that was released by the Office of Special Prosecutor. Let's talk about the deal itself. Imara, the transaction advisor, was to advise the government to structure this deal, for which they were getting $15,000 monthly retainer. A $15,000 monthly retainer that is supposed to be paid in advance. When the deal is all over, there is also what we call a success fee. A success fee of $4 million was going to also be paid upon reaching the phase 2.1 of the deal. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's too many numbers I've just thrown out there. So they were getting $15,000 on a monthly basis as a retainer, and at a certain phase of the project, they were going to get $4 million, and that $4 million will be credited towards the $15,000 that they were getting on an annual basis. So if you were to get $4 million, but you were already getting $15,000 every month, what will happen is when it's time for you to take that $4 million, they will back out all the $15,000 that you were taking. So essentially, this deal, if the finance ministry is advising itself, meaning the finance ministry was paying itself. And one of the reasons we are also saying the finance ministry may be paying itself is that the Office of Special Prosecutor asked for the payments that were made to Imara. It was found out that the Ministry of Finance was paying the money to Imara in Botswana, not Imara South Africa, which was the company we were dealing with from the beginning. We were always communicating and doing contracts dealing with the Imara office in South Africa. But when it comes for us to pay, we're going to pay them in Botswana. It's not like this is unheard of. Some companies would form and have headquarters in one location, but have their finance offices in another location. So it could be that their financial outfit for Imara is actually in Botswana, so they route all their payments through there. So that is not necessarily a red flag for me, but that arrangement kind of leaves a little bit of question. Now, Imara, in the mandate agreement, which is the agreement between Imara and the Republic of Ghana, which was illegally signed off by the Deputy Minister, states that Imara would also identify other service providers or other underwriters that the government will contract with. But what ended up happening was, yes, Imara did identify those service providers, but Imara went ahead and contracted with these companies. And the reason this is very important is certain names came up. Imara was the company that went into an agreement with OG. OG is at Jersey, UK. This is the company that enlisted Agyapa Royalties Limited, which is the Agyapa Royalties Limited we are discussing. And of all these other companies, there's no clarity on how they are paid. The contract with those companies was signed between them and Imara. And imagine, the agreement that we have with Imara is that we would be the ones hiring those other service providers or underwriters for this deal. Not Imara directly hiring them. So Imara directly hiring these companies makes Imara essentially a procurement outfit of the Ministry of Finance, and this is against the procurement laws. Another thing that the Office of Special Prosecutor discovered was that the parliamentary approval process itself was all flawed. For a bill to be sent to Parliament, what usually happens is that the minister that is responsible for the sector the bill is impacting the most will draft a memorandum to cabinets. Mostly, bills are approved at the cabinet level and sent to Parliament. On rare occasions, the president would give an executive approval. If cabinet is not able to meet to do the approval, or where there is an emergency, the president will give an executive approval. For whatever reasons, this deal was given a presidential approval, or what we call an executive approval, within 24 hours after the minister presented it to the cabinet. By 24th March of 2020, the president has already approved this. It was a very quick turnaround, and we thought a deal with this magnitude should take a little bit of due diligence before such approval is reached. Then, the Minister of Finance, again, on the 13th of August, took this deal with another memorandum which he signed now to Parliament for parliamentary discussion and approval. First of all, the process is it goes through the Parliamentary Committee on Finance. The Parliamentary Committee on Finance will discuss the deal, the merits, and do the due diligence, and then make a recommendation to the House for the House to vote on. Now, it also took 24 hours for the committee to return a recommendation on this deal. So all you see here happening is that this deal is really getting rushed through the system, right? Nobody's actually doing a thorough analysis of this deal before the approval happens. To the extent that when it made it to the floor finally, the opposition walked out of the deal and had the discussion done by just the MPP part of Parliament, which is the majority. Now, the MIF law, which this deal is dependent on, wasn't even assented to by the president at the time the deal was sent to Parliament for it to be actually made into a law. So in other words, we are negotiating a transaction and passing it through Parliament based on a law that is in progress. And so that presented so many different things that people did, including the parliamentarians, that violated clearly the laws of Ghana. And so, in conclusion, the president, upon receipt of the Corruption Risk Assessment, has decided to send the deal back to Parliament for negotiation. But we on the Ghana agenda, we have a better idea. We think, one, that a full investigation should be conducted into all the activities leading up to this IPO transactions being discussed in Parliament. Two, we also think that all the politically exposed persons who either served as service providers or advisors on this deal should be precluded from further dealings as far as our gold royalties is concerned. Three, we are asking that the MIF law, or the Minerals Income Investment Fund Act, should be looked at again. The Act 1024 should be thoroughly reviewed to see that it's not structured in such a way as to benefit a certain group of people in Ghana, but that it is actually formed to benefit all Ghanaians everywhere they live. Four, we are asking that both the Minister of Finance and the Deputy Minister of Finance are separately investigated for their individual roles in putting this deal together. If in fact there is any chance of them causing financial loss to the country due to the payments that were made to all these institutions or organizations that advise us illegally because they were contracted with illegally, that should be looked into. And if a reprimand is necessary, that reprimand should be put in place. Again, you're watching the Ghana Agenda. This is your favorite politician's favorite show. We are happy to be back. This is episode 2. If you haven't catch episode 1, please go back and watch it and come back to episode 2. Next week, we'll be coming to you again with Pack program. Again, my name is Martin Amidu. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.